Tonight, a judge's damning assessment of Barry Cable despite finding him not guilty of abusing a child in the 1960s. Hello, I'm Pamela Medlen. This is ABC News. Predictions of slower growth and higher unemployment. The Treasurer says the upcoming budget is hostage to global events. Big business ordered to pay up to help truckies with rising fuel bills. The ceasefire at risk after the US seizes an Iranian ship. And the WA schools getting more money in next month's state budget. Former Australian rules footballer Barry Cable has been found not guilty of sexually abusing a girl in the 1960s. A Perth judge has found the 82-year-old who went on trial last month could not be found guilty beyond reasonable doubt.
Barry Cable's day of judgment on criminal charges, more than half a century after the abuse was alleged to have happened. The verdict, not guilty of all 7 charges.
We're obviously pleased with the court's decision today, certainly not surprised. It's been a stressful and chaotic period in our lives and for the whole family, and today's acquittal hopefully brings some closure.
The court had heard from a woman who said she was abused by the footballer in the 1960s at his home in suburban Perth. Mr Cable's wife had taken the stand and said the girl had never stayed with them. The court had also heard from women who claimed they'd been abused by Mr Cable when they were children. One of those women had brought a civil case against Mr Cable, with a judge finding that she was abused when she was a child. In 2023, after the civil court ruling, Barry Cable was stripped of his Australian Football Hall of Fame honours, including his legend status. While Judge Michael Bowden found Mr Cable not guilty, he said it was likely the alleged victim was telling the truth. He said he'd scrutinised her evidence with great care, but there was a lack of supporting evidence. He said he couldn't find Mr Cable guilty beyond reasonable doubt. The state had alleged Barry Cable had a tendency to be sexually attracted to young underage girls. The judge said, "I generally accept her evidence and have found that Mr Cable has the tendency alleged."
Today I am speaking on behalf of the complainant and the other brave and courageous women who were compelling witnesses. This finding is profoundly disappointing.
To our family, Dad is someone that's always inspired so many people through his football. Dedicated his life after football to community works, and the allegations that were made were at extreme odds with certainly the Barry that we know and have loved our whole life.
Mr Cable's son said it was now time for his parents to live out their twilight years in dignity and asked for their privacy to be respected. David Webber, ABC News.
The Treasurer has warned Australia's economy is hostage to the war in Iran, with the uncertainty playing havoc with next month's budget. But Jim Chalmers insists it will still be one of reform, flagging long-awaited changes to property tax breaks. And he's also revealed where most of the savings will be made. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
A delicate détente barely holding.
Motor vessel telescope.
The fate of this one straight top of mind for a Treasurer whose budget's being reshaped by decisions made thousands of kilometres away.
The Australian economy is in lots of ways hostage to those developments.
Jim Chalmers warning the longer this conflict drags on, the more severe the consequences. But even before the war, his budget was facing big challenges.
The NDIS is growing too fast for Australians to afford.
Spending on the National Disability Insurance Scheme is outpacing defence, public hospitals and aged care. Growing at more than 10% this year, the government wants that halved to between 5% and 6%.
It is easily the most important part of the savings package that we will present on budget night.
The Health Minister to outline how this week, warning without change, the $52 billion a year scheme is on track to hit $63 billion by 2028.
We've long said that we want to work with the government to contain the growth in NDI spending.
State and Territory Treasurers will tomorrow be briefed on the changes, understood to include a crackdown on unregistered providers. Disability advocates agree there are savings to be made, but not at the expense of choice.
Many participants rely on unregistered providers because they are flexible, they're culturally safe, and sometimes they're the only option available.
The government's seeking to avoid another fight with the states, who claim they were blindsided by the last shake-up to the NDIS. With the budget just 3 weeks away, most major decisions are yet to be locked in. But the Treasurer has all but confirmed he is pursuing changes to housing tax breaks, with a range of options being considered to curb the capital gains tax discount and even possibly negative gearing. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
And as the ongoing crisis hits every sector of the economy, tonight there's some much-needed relief for Australia's truckies. A Fair Work Commission ruling has ordered the big supermarkets, miners and retailers to help share the costs of soaring fuel prices through regular reviews of contracts.
A win for truckies battling soaring fuel costs.
It's a massive relief and it's a huge win.
Every corner of the economy will be touched by this.
Subby drivers and family-owned trucking companies are typically paid under contract that aren't always regularly renegotiated. And that has seen many struggle as the price of fuel soars. Leonie Carter runs a heavy haulage company with a fleet of 12 trucks, and she says that her fuel bill has increased more than $20,000 a week.
To be able to look at our fuel costs twice a month and reflect those prices and charge them on is a huge relief in this crisis.
There are truck drivers right across the country in supply chains big and small that have been driving at a loss.
The Fair Work Commission is now ordering companies like supermarkets and miners to hold fortnightly fuel reviews with truckies and adjust prices if needed. The order will stay in place until diesel is under $2 a litre. The average price across the country tonight is nearly $3.
While this is a big win for the truckies, undoubtedly this also poses a cost of living blow for Australians if the companies now pass on these higher fuel costs to consumers.
This model will now apply to everyone, but in the Commission hearings that we've had, we've been working constructively with Woolworths, with Coles. This will apply to the likes of Amazon.
The big supermarkets and Amazon say that they're already fulfilling the Fair Work Commission's ruling. Amazon says it's making regular adjustments. Woolworths says it's increased its fuel reviews to twice monthly.
Without this little bit of help, our industry is really struggling, so this will go a long way.
A relief for some that could be paid by all. Amelia Terzon, ABC News.
The United States has seized an Iranian cargo ship that it says was trying to get past its blockade near the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is vowing to retaliate, casting further doubt over the ceasefire due to end within days.
A nighttime mission in the Arabian Sea. US Marines boarding an Iranian-flagged cargo ship after its engine room was fired upon by an American destroyer. President Donald Trump says the vessel was trying to get past his blockade of Iranian ports and had been warned to stop.
Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
As the president has stated, he is prepared to escalate, to de-escalate. He is prepared to actually board and turn around Iranian ships, even as far east as the Pacific Ocean.
Tracking data shows the ship had travelled from China via Malaysia. The Iranian military is labelling the US action armed piracy, vowing to retaliate. Iran has also suggested it might not take part in a second round of peace talks in Pakistan.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The US president again threatening civilian infrastructure if an agreement can't be reached. We're offering a very fair and reasonable deal, and I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Supporters of the regime in Tehran remain sceptical about the chances of a diplomatic breakthrough.
The United States has so far honoured none of the promises it made to us. We should proceed with complete distrust.
The ceasefire between the US and Iran increasingly fragile, days before it's due to expire.
Let's bring in Matthew Doran now in Jerusalem. Matthew, days out from this ceasefire expiring, are there any hopes of reaching a breakthrough?
Pamela, good evening. We have just heard from the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman that Iran has no plans to join that second round of talks with the United States, adding that Iran doesn't believe in ultimatums and deadlines when it comes to safeguarding its national interests. Based on that rhetoric alone, you'd have to say that this ceasefire may not last beyond Wednesday morning, but it is also safe to say that this situation could change dramatically in the next few hours, as it did when the ceasefire was first announced after threats and counter-threats. The other situation to keep in mind here is in Lebanon and the pause in fighting there. Over the weekend, the IDF released new details about the land it has seized during its invasion of southern Lebanon, which it plans to continue occupying during this truce, demolishing villages during that period. It goes to show that even if there is an outcome in the US-Iran negotiations, unscrambling what's happening in Lebanon will take far longer. Pamela.
Time for a weather check. Tabarak Jrood is here, and Tabarak, there's a bit of a change in the air.
That's right, Pamela. The first significant cold front of the year has begun its sweep over the state's southwest, bringing a band of showers, thunderstorms and gusty winds. Now, this system could bring around 5 to 15 millimetres of rainfall for some areas. However, higher falls are likely with thunderstorms. But the real punch of this front is the winds. There is a severe weather warning for damaging winds, with gusts of up to 100 kilometres an hour possible for areas south of Mandurah and towards Albany from this evening. But we'll see those conditions ease from tomorrow. I'll have more details soon.
The government has used the start of Term 2 to announce an extra $750 million in next month's budget for school infrastructure upgrades and maintenance over the next 4 years. Some of the money will be spent expanding existing schools and starting work on a new high school. But the opposition says it's playing catch-up.
By the government's own admission, Piara Waters Primary School is bursting at the seams.
Hello, how are you? You're good.
The Premier wasn't playing around for long, using the visit to announce next month's budget will include
$2.1 billion for new schools, expanded schools and school upgrades and maintenance over the next 4 years.
That includes $165 million to expand capacity at Piara Waters, Riva and Inglewood Primary Schools and Harrisdale Senior High School. There's also almost $70 million for land and early works for the new Alkimos North Senior High School and $400 million for additional maintenance across the system.
If the government had done its job and invested upfront to maintain our schools, they would not play catch-up now.
There is money going to make sure that we deliver on our election commitments, but there is significant money to make sure we do the business as usual.
Investment also the word of the day for the opposition leader on his first visit to WA since being elected.
If investment doesn't happen, incomes don't go up and you can't manage the cost of living.
Angus Taylor telling a friendly crowd of mining movers and shakers how a future coalition government would encourage more investment, including by changing environmental laws recently rewritten by the government.
Its decision to exclude oil, gas and coal projects from being considered as national interest proposals months out from the Middle East conflict reveals a government that is absolutely blind to the long-term needs of this country.
Where was the Liberal Party when they sold Western Australia down the stream by refusing to talk to the government about the proper balance in relation to that act?
This is a bad act and we opposed it. And Labor did dirty deals with the Greens, as they do.
Last year's election drubbing left the Liberals with just 4 of WA's 16 federal lower house seats. Angus Taylor is planning to head to Bunbury on Tuesday, then back to Perth on Wednesday, in the hopes of laying the groundwork to try and pick up a few more next time around. Kian Burke, ABC News.
The family of a toddler who died at Joondalup Health Campus is calling for accountability for their son's death, saying as yet no one's been held responsible for destroying their lives. A coronial inquest has found the death of Sandapan Dar was preventable if clinicians had listened to the family's pleas for a blood test.
Just 21 months old, Sandapan Dar died at the privately operated Joondalup Health Campus.
We will never get back Sandapan. That incident
totally destroyed our life.
Shandapon had been experiencing fevers for weeks when his parents took him to the emergency department in March 2024, requesting a blood test but not getting one. At the centre of a coronial inquest that year was whether that blood test could have saved Shandapon's life. 2 years on, WA coroner Sarah Linton's conclusion: the toddler's death was probably preventable. Vindication for the Dar family, who've always said their requests for a blood test that night were ignored.
It's been proven that we've always been telling the truth. And the system or the Joondalup hospital was not telling the truth.
Wanting every WA hospital to take note.
What it is we can do to take those things and our learnings from there across the entire system.
But a big question remains for the Dar family, whether Ramsay Healthcare are suitable operators.
So you think the Ramsay Health contract should be terminated?
No question about it.
Ramsay Healthcare says every clinician involved in Shandapon's case was referred to the national regulator, which found the care provided was appropriate. But the boy's family says someone needs to be held accountable, fighting to leave a legacy of change. Kason Ho, ABC News.
The former SAS soldier Ben Robert-Smith has reported to police for the first time as part of strict bail conditions set by a judge in Sydney. The Victoria Cross recipient is required to report to police 3 times a week until he faces trial. The 47-year-old was charged with 5 counts of war crime murder for offences that are alleged to have occurred in Afghanistan in 2009 and 2012. Speaking to the media over the weekend, he categorically denied the allegations against him. During his release from prison, corrective services officers were accused of blocking the media, a move the Premier, Chris Minns, says did not amount to special treatment.
If your job when you go to work that day is to keep order and safety at the prison, then maybe you'd make a decision. I don't think that they would be applying that in relation to every prisoner that walks out, but in fairness to them, every prisoner that walks out isn't met with 100 cameras and 100 journalists.
Overseas, a father in the United States has shot and killed 8 children, including 7 of his own, in one of the country's deadliest mass shootings in years. The attacks occurred before sunrise in the Louisiana town of Shreveport, across 2 houses. The children, aged between 3 and 11, were all killed in the same house. 2 women, including the gunman's wife, were shot and critically wounded in another home. The gunman fled in a stolen car and, after a police pursuit, was shot and killed by officers. Authorities say it's being treated as a domestic incident. Tsunami waves of up to 80 centimetres have been recorded in Japan after a 7.5 magnitude earthquake struck off the country's northeastern coast this afternoon at a depth of 10 kilometres. Tsunami warnings remain in place, with residents in parts of Iwate, Hokkaido and Aomori prefectures told to go to higher ground. The country's meteorological agency has warned bigger waves of up to 3 metres could follow. No unusual activity has been reported at any of Japan's nuclear reactors. A massive fire on Malaysia's Borneo Island has left more than 9,000 people homeless. It's unclear what started the blaze, but it spread quickly through rows of wooden houses sitting on stilts above the sea. Officials say strong winds helped fuel the fire, while narrow access routes and low tide conditions made it harder for emergency crews. No deaths have been reported. The number of adults being treated for ADHD has increased sharply in the past 8 years. A Four Corners investigation reveals the locations where prescriptions for ADHD medications are heavily concentrated, with Fremantle the highest in the nation. And as Dr Norman Swan reports, the data raises fresh questions about how diagnoses are being made.
I didn't get diagnosed till I was 41.
Ben Drysdale is one of a staggering number of adults who've been diagnosed with ADHD in the last 8 years.
Being a new parent pushes people over the edge of where they can no longer mask.
Experts agree that the percentage of adults with ADHD in the community should be around 2.5 to 3%. But our data show many local areas have rates well below that, suggesting that people are missing out on much-needed treatment. We also found very high rates of ADHD medication use in places like Brunswick and the Blue Mountains. But Western Australia dominates the list of hotspots, with Fremantle the highest in the country at 4.4% of adults.
Whilst we know there are many adults who can't access treatment for their ADHD, there also would suggest that there is some misdiagnosis. There are some people who are being treated who wouldn't meet the diagnostic criteria.
The rise in diagnoses has been accompanied by an increase in assessments done by telehealth companies, many of which market themselves as ADHD clinics.
I'm very concerned by any clinic that's just about a single condition. This is a chronic condition that needs a team who knows you well, and this race for access to medicines is not solving the problem of supporting a group who really do need that comprehensive care.
It suggests that more scrutiny is needed over the way this condition is diagnosed. Norman Swan, ABC News.
The ABC's AM radio transmission tower in Perth's north has been switched off. The 180-metre tower in Hammersley transmitted both ABC Radio Perth and Radio National. Both moved to the FM band in February, with ABC Radio Perth now on air on 102.5 FM and Radio National on 103.3. News radio will still be broadcast on AM from a separate tower at the Hammersley site, as well as on FM. To finance now, the local share market fell this morning in response to the renewed closure of the Strait of Hormuz and rise in the oil price, but then it recovered to finish the day flat. Here's Alan Kohler.
Well, the Foreign Minister of Iran tweeted that the Strait of Hormuz was completely open at 8:45 a.m. on Friday, New York time, or 10:45 p.m. in Eastern Australia, which produced another spirited day's trading on the New York Stock Exchange on Friday, with indexes up strongly. The S&P 500 finished the week with a gain of 4.5% and has surged an incredible 12% since the end of March, one of the most powerful three-week rallies in history. Asian markets are up today, so hope springs eternal, apparently. The oil price dropped 10% on Friday, but 30 hours later on Saturday afternoon in New York, the strait was slammed shut again because America had not reciprocated by ending its blockade of Iranian ships. So traffic through the strait went back to zero. Yesterday, the oil price went back to where it was before the strait was opened. How long will it stay closed and the oil price stay elevated? Well, American negotiators are heading back to the Serena Hotel in Islamabad, but US forces just fired at and seized an Iranian ship, and yesterday Iran was shooting at ships trying to get through the strait. So the ceasefire, which isn't due to end until Wednesday morning our time, is going well. The Brent and West Texas benchmarks are up about 6% on the day today, while gold and silver are down. The local share market finished roughly flat, with NAB down sharply after it said it was putting aside $300 million more for bad debts because of what's happening. Worley put out a profit warning for the same reason, while retailers went up. No idea why. The Aussie dollar did get to a 4-year high above 72 US cents on Friday morning, but it's had a poor weekend since then, what with the Strait of Hormuz opening and shutting. So it's back down to 71.5, and that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, electric car sales are booming, but is Australia ready?
The high fuel prices is what has triggered the big boost, the big increase in EV interest.
In some of the smaller towns, there's only 1 or 2 chargers in the town.
EV drivers want the chargers now. Why can't you do it faster?
Well, we're doing it as fast as we can.
Also tonight, I'll interview the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese.
Time for sport, and the AFL is preparing to honour Australia's servicemen and women this weekend with a showpiece game between Essendon and Collingwood, already a sellout, despite both clubs' struggles this season. And the Magpies skipper is doing everything he can to be back in time for the cornerstone fixture at the MCG.
A sombre start to a week of reflection. The Pies and Bombers coming together at Melbourne's Shrine of Remembrance ahead of their traditional Anzac Day clash on Saturday.
We feel so lucky to be a part of a game that's much bigger than football.
The Collingwood captain revealing he's confident of a return after 3 weeks on the sidelines with a hamstring injury.
Made a couple of really big breakthroughs, so body feels awesome coming into this week.
Collingwood's nail-biting win last round has been overshadowed by Carlton's handling of Elijah Holland's reported mental health episode mid-game. The heat still firmly on the Blues, who are yet to offer an explanation on how he was allowed to remain on the field.
If I saw one of my teammates acting in such a way that maybe Elijah was, then I would definitely say something.
Andrew McGrath, meanwhile, has plenty to prove in his first Anzac Day as skipper.
We're still not where we want to be, and there's a gap between us and the best teams in the competition, and we want to close that as fast as we can.
Melbourne is still looking into the cause of Harrison Petty's sudden spell of blurred vision during their gutsy win over Brisbane.
Well, this is extremely concerning.
Yeah, it is very.
The club treating the defender for delayed concussion, with this incident during the second term the likely culprit, though Petty suffered no symptoms at the time. And the Hawks have accepted one-match bans handed to both James Sicily and Dylan Moore for striking Port Adelaide's Logan Evans.
That is just undisciplined from the skipper.
The pair will miss the Anzac Day match against the Suns in Launceston. Erin Marsikovetere, ABC News.
Late today, Carlton Football Club issued a statement confirming that Elijah Hollands had been admitted to hospital this evening. It also requested privacy for Elijah and his family. Port Adelaide's Zach Butters has won his appeal against a guilty verdict for umpire abuse at the AFL Appeals Board. Last Tuesday, the tribunal sided with umpire Nick Foote, who alleged Butters asked him, "How much are they paying you?" after a free kick was awarded to St Kilda during their round 5 loss. Butters vehemently denied the claim, and the club said the verdict branded him a liar. Port Adelaide successfully argued the conduct of tribunal member Jason Johnson amounted to a miscarriage of justice after Johnson joined the online hearing from his car while driving to an appointment. The AFL will not seek a rehearing of the matter. WA golfer Hannah Green has won the LA Championship to claim her 4th victory of the year. The world number 8, Green, came from 6 shots behind in the final round to win the event with a birdie on the first playoff hole. It's the 3rd time in 4 years that Green has won the LA Championship. The victory comes ahead of this week's major tournament in Houston.
I don't think I would be doing this or be in contention if I wasn't nervous. You know, those are the feelings that you want when you're out here. That's what makes you want to just do it over and over again. So, yeah, I'm very happy to be on the other end of it.
Tabarak is back with us now. There are some showers on the way, Tabarak.
Yep, they've already made their arrival, Pamela. 0.2 of a millimetre has already fallen in Perth so far, and they might stick around till tomorrow morning, so expect a wet start to the day. But rain or not, I'm sure it won't be stopping these swimmers from going for their daily dawn swim. Whatever you get up to, though, don't forget to send your weather pics through. Now in Perth, we reached a top of 23 degrees around 11:30 this morning after dropping to a cool low of 9.6 degrees, our coldest minimum so far this month. However, that would probably be considered fairly mild for some folks in Bridgetown who had to wake up to a chilly 3.4 degrees. Meanwhile, it was a warm day for areas further inland. Esperance reached 35 degrees, Kalgoorlie Boulder got to 36, but Marble Bar took the hot spot at 39 degrees. Now, on the satellite, you can see that cloud band to the west where the incoming cold front is rolling in. Meanwhile, a trough further inland is also generating cloud and embedded storms as it shifts east. Now, that cold front will move across the southwest overnight and into tomorrow morning, bringing showers and freshening winds, but then it will quickly weaken early tomorrow, and then we'll see conditions become more settled. Taking a look around the country tomorrow, a shower or 2 in Sydney, sunny and 21 in Canberra, also sunny in Adelaide, cloud clearing in Melbourne, and partly cloudy and 27 in Brisbane. Back in WA's north, conditions are hot, humid and a bit unstable through the Kimberley, with isolated showers and storms popping up. Meanwhile, the Pilbara and the Gascoyne region will stay mostly dry but warm, with temperatures pushing into the mid to high 30s. For central parts, it's a bit of a mixed bag. We've got a bit of cloud around over the goldfields with a possible early storm for Norseman and Kambalda, some lingering morning showers for the central west and the Wheatbelt districts before they clear for a mostly sunny afternoon. Further south, a shower or 2 over the southwest land division, contracting to the south coast by the afternoon. We will see daytime temperatures drop behind that front, so it is looking very cool across the southern half, only getting to 15 degrees at Manjimup and Mount Barker. And for Perth, we're starting off the day tomorrow with an early morning shower, and that's staying cloudy and cool with a forecast maximum of 19 degrees from an overnight low of 13. It's also going to be a breezy day in the city, so there is a gale warning for local waters where winds will be west to southwesterly, reaching up to 35 knots early in the morning, and seas will be up to 3 metres. Sunrise will be at 41 past 6, setting at 11 minutes to 6. And then looking ahead, we've got a sunny break on Wednesday, getting to 22 degrees, 22 again on Thursday and Friday, but with a shower or two forecast. And then the sunshine is back on Saturday with a warmer top of 24. So we've got a little bit of everything this week, Pamela.
Kind of good gardening weather, I would say, thanks to Tabarak. That's ABC News for now. We'll be back with you tomorrow. You can catch the news anytime on ABC iView. But stay with us now for 7:30.